in that position go about figuring this out? And I kind of ask because I feel like I'm kind of in that position right now where it's like, I have all these options in front of me and I don't really know which one to pick, but like, yeah.
So I think for somebody who has no idea what they want to do and who doesn't necessarily have options, it really is about bringing it back to what are the activities that I would like to do and how can I get the skills to actually do those activities? And then going about spending time engaged in those activities. So maybe you want to do some more public speaking, trying to get on panels, trying to spend some time with people who might be actually able to get you into the room where you can do some public speaking in the future, going to talks and studying what makes a good speaker and what doesn't make a good speaker if you really have no experience. And then maybe there are some skills that you have to pay for. And I do say in Think Big, for people who do not know what they want to do, I would avoid committing to a 4-year degree or an expensive master's program and really use the resources that are out there that are either cheap or free. Because there's so many things that we can actually learn now without having to set foot into a traditional classroom. Even though I work in a university and we have wonderful degrees, I think you need to be certain to spend that amount of money. And then I think for someone like you, I think doing time audits can really help. So during the week, writing down what you're actually doing, which you probably do already, but writing down whether or not you actually enjoy doing them. Did you feel firstly a sense of purpose, that it was kind of leading you to a better place in 5 years' time, or did you feel fun in the moment? And then if there were activities that aren't kind of investing in you in 5 years' time and they're not giving you fun in the moment, consider job crafting, which I think you're in a good position to do, where you remove those activities and do more of the things that are giving you purpose and more of the things that are giving you fun today.
Okay, interesting. So time audit and thinking about, was this thing fun? And if not, was it at least purposeful?
Yes.
And if not, why the hell am I doing it?
Yes. And I don't journal at all. And I really just put these marks next to my diary. So after the event, I'll edit the calendar and I'll say, yeah, I enjoyed that. That was good. That's going to pay me forward in the future as well. Or actually, that was really a drain of my energy. And let's avoid things like that in the future.
One thing that I often kind of clash with my mum about is the idea of changing one's mind and making plans and then changing them a few weeks to months later. So, for example, last year I had decided that, you know what, at the stage my career is currently at, I'm considering moving to America to continue to practice medicine, and started gearing myself up to take those exams, and made the mistake, well, maybe not. It had a good clickbait title of making a video called "I'm Moving to America," where I announced my plans for moving to America. And then as I started preparing for this exam and realized how much work it was going to be, and then as the YouTube channel started to explode, and I thought, hang on, maybe this. Moving to America, it'll be 4 years of residency. Is a reasonable amount of hard work. Maybe it'll be fun. And at the end of it, you become a doctor who makes 400K a year or something like that. But I could see the trajectory of the YouTube channel being more interesting than that point. And so I kind of pivoted and thought, screw this America thing. But now almost anytime I speak to someone, they will have seen that video and they're like, hey, I thought you were moving to America. And especially my mom, she often says that, hey, you said you were moving to America and then you changed your mind. Yeah. Do you think there's much, or to what extent is there value in picking a goal and then sticking to it rather than just willy-nilly changing one's mind?
I don't think you want to change your mind willy-nilly. So I come in between you and your mum in some way. So I think the first thing is, maybe you should do a YouTube video on sunk cost fallacy, right? And talk to people about the fact that, you have put yourself out there, you had this commitment devised, but actually that's the cost that you'll have to sink, the embarrassment of actually changing your mind, because when you reviewed your options and you review them deliberately, it looked like sticking to YouTube was right for you. And I think that second part is really important to ask yourself, did you review your options and review them deliberately, kind of thinking about what are the costs and benefits? Or was it something else? Was it kind of the length of the residency? Was it a fear of failure? Was it loss aversion that drove you to that decision? And I think if it's deliberate, you absolutely should change your mind. And, I think one of the big, powerful kind of influences on our decision-making is our emotions. And when we think about the future, so if you think about doing a residency in America, it does actually sound quite scary, to be honest, kind of going now, doing 4 years when you clearly have a really good career at the moment. Were you anticipating kind of a loss that might not necessarily be realized and not seeing gains that trip would actually give you? And I think if you sit down and say, actually, I was deliberate, then you should change your mind. And I think one of the problems in society today is that we think that good citizens, good leaders should never change their mind. And I think in COVID, that was to the detriment of many countries, because it took a lot for some leaders to come out and say, look, actually, this isn't the right strategy. I'm now going to change my mind. So if I was to think about leaders of the future, actually, their ability to stand up and say, I don't know, I got it wrong, or I've changed my mind. Those three things are really in the forefront of my mind, because when you're navigating through uncertainty, you're going to get it wrong sometimes, and that's okay. But it's the deliberate part. Have you sat down and deliberately now changed your mind? Or is it something, you used the word willy-nilly, is it a willy-nilly kind of reflex action? And then it might be worth revisiting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, like when I was following the news with all the COVID stuff, and occasionally there'd be the phrase, oh, the government has made another U-turn. And I would kind of think that, like, isn't that a good thing? Like,
yes.
Surely sticking to a plan that's shown not to be like herd immunity or something, like you would, surely you want the government to make a U-turn.
Yep.
Why do we have such a weird reaction to leaders changing their mind about stuff, do you think?
I think things were predictable for a long time. So, I think as well, kind of maybe the difference in attitudes between yourself and your mum do come from generational gaps. She would have been in the UK when there was a big period of growth. So we had some dips, but we haven't seen the disruption like we've seen kind of in the last, kind of 5-6 years. So people who are early 20s now, they are facing much more uncertainty than people would have done 20 years ago, 40 years ago, coming out of university. And I think when we're in periods of certainty, we expect people to get it right. Good decision making is possible, right? So if I could talk to you through your options in decision making under uncertainty, I could tell you what your life will look like in 4 years' time when you step outside of the US, or if you turn that option down and stay doing the YouTube, I could show you what your life will be. But now, because the economy is changing, the growth cycles are changing, we don't have that certainty. And I think we need new types of leaders, but people, status quo bias prevails. And it's nice to have somebody standing there, looking very serious, telling us that things are going to be okay because they have it in control. And for human beings, U-turning and change of minds aren't signals that someone has it in control.
That's interesting. There was an exercise I came across a couple of years ago called the Odyssey Plan, which is the idea that, it's sort of a way of helping you figure out what to do with your life, where the idea is that you write down 5 years from now, what does my life look like down this current path? And then you put that aside, and then you say, okay, 5 years from now, what does my life look like if I take a completely different path? And you put that aside, and then you say, okay, 5 years from now, what does my life look like if money and societal obligations are no object, and I could just literally do what I want? What does my life look like then? And I did this sort of thing about 2 years ago, and it really helped me realize, I just never spend the time thinking long term, well, medium to long term at all. And even just spending half an hour thinking, if I go down this current path, I'll end up, I don't know, in an anesthetics training program in Cambridge, being a supervisor. It'll be kind of fun. This is what my day-to-day would look like. That doesn't seem particularly exciting. Oh, okay, maybe I should try something else. And just spending the time to think about that, like, really made me change direction in a way. Do you have any sort of similar practices or exercises that you recommend for people trying to figure out this question of, like, what the hell do I do with my life?
I mean, it's a really good question. I think it again comes back to the task, which sounds really boring. So there's lists in the book of activities that people do in their occupation and skills that you might want to hone. And I think it comes back to that. And thinking about, are you happy to spend your day engaged in activities like those? So a lot of the jobs that look exciting, they look exciting because on TV they're glamorized. I mean, law always is one that comes into my mind. And I think I would be a terrible lawyer, because the commitment to a day-to-day that's like 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. is absolutely something that you still need today, sadly. But people don't know about that before they go in. They think about themselves standing in court and litigating the cases. So it's bringing it back to those kind of boring, humdrum tasks. And I think when it comes to your think big journey, it's about, what would the tasks that I would be doing in 10 years' time? How would I spend my Monday morning? How would I spend my Tuesday morning? And how can I get myself in a place where that's really realistic? And, for most of us, we won't be able to be in a place where we don't have to worry about money. So we'll have to be doing something that adds value to society. But this is an opportunity to kind of put yourself on a path where you get to do tasks that are as fun as possible, and you're actually enjoying them, so you don't feel like working. And I think for most of us, that's our goal, right? That 70% of our time at work, it doesn't feel like a painful process. We're really enjoying those activities.
Within the field of behavioral sciences, I get the, like, a lot of the stuff you talk about in the book, you talk, like, at the end of each chapter, there's the sort of different insights from behavioral science, which are translated into things that we can do right now. One thing that I was curious about is, what does research in this field look like? Like, how do we know that the stuff that we talk about in the book, or the stuff that you read in a self-help book,